Do you feel like ranked has become impossible to play? Well, you're not alone. As a Radiant coach who's been teaching Valorant for over 4 years, I can tell you that this feeling of ranked being a nightmare is the #1 pain point every student of mine complains about. They either don't feel confident or they feel like their teammates make it impossible to grind past their peak. And I get it, ranking up can be incredibly frustrating, but I still believe it's not as hard as you might think. In fact, if you watch this video and fix the mistakes I point out, climbing the ranks will start to feel much easier. Let's begin by explaining the actual reason why so many players feel like ranking up is so difficult. In reality, the natural tendency of most people when playing Valorant or improving at any skill is focusing too much on the negative experiences. In our case, an example would be bad teammates. The core of the negativity for the average ranked player is their expectations around what their teammates need to do, what they're capable of, and how the game is supposed to be played. I hear all the time about how ranked sucks because teammates aren't doing what they're supposed to. But the harsh truth is, if you're silver, gold, or even plat, you can't expect your teammates to have perfect game knowledge. Whether that's a Sova not darting properly for A main on Icebox or an Omen not properly sight smoking on Haven, plenty of expectations you might have are going to be off. So the first step to ranking up is being realistic about your current rank and the expectations that you have of your teammates. If you're in low elo and someone has never played their Asian before, don't expect perfect util. You might need to guide them a bit. But let's say in high elo, if someone is on their main agent, you can make more advanced calls even though their execution might not always be perfect. However, if that teammate doesn't communicate or don't follow your calls, it's also important to adjust your expectations since you can't control your teammates nor their playstyle, their agent knowledge, or how they react. However, what you can do is adapt to what they're doing and play around it. For example, if you're playing Clove on attack and notice your teammates are hesitant to enter the site, it might be better to wait a moment before smoking and take the initiative to call the entry yourself. You can say something like, "I'm gonna smoke in 5 seconds, then we all rush the site." That way, your duelists won't feel like they're going to die the second they entry and the whole team can push in together, which increases your chances of success. Now, even if you realize this, you might still struggle with figuring out what is holding you back. In fact, one problem that prevents people from ranking up is not identifying their bottleneck or not knowing exactly how to fix it. So if you're tired of trying to improve on your own without seeing any progress, my team of a dozen Radiant and VCT coaches can help you find your biggest bottlenecks and rank up 500 RR in 10 weeks, guaranteed, or your money back inside the Immortal Roadmap program. You'll join other like-minded players with a personalized approach. We have 16 out of 50 spots available for the next season, so click the link below to book a free call with me or one of our coaches to look over your tracker together and see if we'd be a good fit. Now, there's one more thing that actually makes climbing feel impossible for some people, and surprisingly, it's not their bad mechanics or game sense, it's their expectations towards themselves. I just mentioned that you shouldn't expect your teammates to play perfectly, but that also applies to you. A lot of Valorant players I've interacted with watch VCT or Radiant streamers top frag, match MVP, and outperform almost everyone so often that they create this false image of how to be a good player. And what ends up happening is they see frags, KD, and headshot percentage as the end goal for being the best of the best. However, even the best of the best don't perform at 100%. And in fact, they lose a lot more than you think. So don't create such high expectations for yourself either. Instead, create more grounded and realistic expectations game to game or even round to round. For example, you can make an easy goal of throwing better utility if you're on a support role, or if you're on a fragging role, make the expectation something simple, like getting space into areas you need to contest, trading your teammates, or getting the first blood and surviving afterwards. No matter what you choose as your goal, if you keep it simple and realistic, you're more likely to fulfill it. And this can help you build up confidence, consistency, and help you enjoy your games more too. And something I briefly mentioned before is how you perceive the game to be played correctly. If I were to play in a silver lobby right now with my current skill level, I wouldn't go in thinking my teammates or my opponents will be playing a Radiant level round of Valorant. Oftentimes, the most random and crazy events happen in these lobbies. Just as an example, some of the compositions you might see with agents are way different from what you'd see in higher elo, like with Gecko. Gecko is an easy agent to play, has regen utility, and can get a ton of value in low elo. However, in higher elos, most players prefer Sova or Fade as an initiator choice because of the more direct info they have with scans. It's not to say Gecko is bad, but rather that I'd have to adapt to him differently because I'm not as accustomed to playing him. Adaptations to certain metas or differences in your rank is an important skill to climb, and it'll definitely make it easier for you if you're able to grasp it. Another example of the crazy differences or randomness that happens in lower elos is in teamfights. When you watch a teamfight in low elo, you might be surprised to see way more util being used than in higher elo, because utility is something that a lot of newer players don't exactly know how to use, so the chaos factor gets crazy quickly. However, in higher elo, utility is often used sparingly or in more coordinated ways in order to lead your team to get more gunfights. Oftentimes, it's even more basic than lower elo setups or lineups because they put more focus into their gunplay. So to make it easier as a lower elo player to climb, you might find more benefits in working on your gunplay and movement rather than just trying to learn a ton of lineups. Another common issue I see with climbing expectations is that people underestimate how long it actually takes to improve. When I ask students their expectations for their timeline to rank up, I always receive a big wide range of answers. There are bronze students who expect to be ascendant in 4 weeks, ascendant students who expect to be immortal in over a year, and plat students who expect to be radiant tomorrow. It sounds far-fetched, but these are really the responses that I get. There's a good amount of people in the Valorant community who think ranking up is quick and easy and that you don't need much time. And well, that might be true for a tiny fraction of players, but for most, climbing takes time, effort, and routine. The truth is, the timeline for ranking up is different for everyone, but in every instance, the most reliable way to see progress is by balancing practice, play, and rest. It's a long game, and it rewards consistency more than bursts of effort. Think of it like brushing your teeth. If you skip it for days and expect perfect dental health, you're delusional. Same with Valorant. If you're not putting in a couple of focused hours each day, you can't expect fast results. And if that's just not realistic for your schedule, then your expectations around climbing need to adjust. Otherwise, rank becomes frustrating instead of fun. Even with all this being said, my personal recommendation to make ranking up easier is to simply have fun. I know it might sound cheesy, but hear me out. Many players in the community have lost sight of the fun aspect of playing ranked in general. And this happens because they always focus on the terrible interactions they have every couple of games rather than the majority where everyone is having a good time. Oftentimes, I hear about the horror stories of random strangers controlling the vibe of the game or making it difficult to play, which is a completely valid thing that does happen. But what I end up seeing is that those weird interactions with strangers end up holding so much weight after those games that some of my students carry over those feelings of stress, toxicity, and bad vibes game to game. But the reality is, you won't really care about those random toxic players down the line. You're not even going to remember them. So I like to frame it as a thought exercise. Do you think 20 years down the road, this random game on Corrode with someone being a menace will be something you mention to your family and friends? Realistically, no. Don't let these toxic strangers control your mood, your future, or your progress for ranked and improvement. The stronger your willpower, the more you'll realize you have control over how to handle the bad parts of ranked. So don't lean into the idea that ranking up is too hard, because the only person that can hold you back in the long term and make it difficult is you. So to recap, generally, expectations are something that need to change in order to climb faster and make ranking up easier. Understanding what's in your control, what isn't, and how to react to those factors can help you adjust your expectations game by game. This also means adjusting the expectations around what you or your team is doing. For example, don't expect your teammates' first time breach to be good, and don't go first time Sova just because on paper, that's what a proper team comp should have. Comfort picks lead to better games for everyone, so stick to what you know and your expectations might be easier to meet. No proper game of Valorant will realistically be played in a comp game. Ranked will always be toxic, so don't create grand ideas on how the game's supposed to look, but instead, deal with the game in front of you right now. And like I said, most importantly, have fun when you play. Really, if you do, you'll improve faster than the guy constantly looking for everything that's wrong with their teammates. When you enjoy improving, you'll enjoy the process of ranking up even more. Thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, you might like this other video here.